Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video we're going to be doing a little Q&A. It's been a minute since I've done one of these and I thought it would be fun to answer some of your wedding planning related questions and also just general life update questions as I get ready to transition into a new season of life. And so I put a little thing up on my Instagram and got a lot of good questions. If you want to be able to submit a question for the next time I do a Q&A, make sure you're following me over there. But we'll just go ahead and get into it. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and then also give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. And then if there's any videos you want to see in terms of the wedding planning process or anything like that, leave a comment down below. So the first question is, how has planning your wedding been? It has been a lot. I feel like I always heard people talk about how planning a wedding is so stressful, and I believed that it would be, but I just didn't fully understand that until being in it, because I think it's easy to think, like it's just one day, how much can go into it, but there is truly so much that goes into it and so many little details and things to get worked out. And so it's definitely a lot, but overall it's been really good. I feel like there are some days where I almost sort of thrive on the challenge of it all, because I almost feel like it's putting like this giant puzzle together, just because there's so many different logistics that you're having to coordinate and making sure they all work together. And sometimes you need a piece of information for this thing before you can make a decision over here. And so it just feels like this giant puzzle. And some days I feel super on top of it and super organized and like I'm just thriving in the challenge of it. And then other days I feel super overwhelmed. And so it's definitely a mixture. It depends on the day, but I would say overall good, and it's been super fun, and I'm just trying to savor it and remind myself that I waited for this time and to just soak it in and to not get too overwhelmed in the stressful moments. But I've also had a lot of people who have reached out and offered and have been willing to help, and so that has definitely made it a little easier. Next question, when is the wedding date? So I don't think that we're going to reveal the wedding date quite yet, but I did have another question coming in asking when is the wedding month, and we are going to reveal that. So we will be getting married in November of this year, and it's actually a really cool date with a story. I'm just gonna take a sip of my smoothie. I feel like this is a bad idea because smoothies, I always get stuff in my teeth, but I'm hungry, so just bear with me. So when Tyler and I first started talking about the timeline of getting married, we actually had a couple different months we were initially looking at, but then as we talked about it more, it was just looking more and more like November made the most sense for us, and as we prayed about it and everything. And so we had decided on November, I think probably even before we got engaged, or at least November was our goal. But we initially had a different date in November that we were originally wanting to get married on. And the story behind that was actually that the original date was 2 years to the day from when we went on our very first date. We shared a little bit about that in my Meet My Boyfriend video and our story, and we're gonna share more of that going forward. But I just thought that would be really special and sentimental to be able to get married on 2 years from the day when we went on our first date. But as we were continuing to talk about it, there were a couple reasons logistically why that original date just wasn't going to be the best. And we were going back and forth for a while, and I kind of didn't want to let go of it just because of the sentimental specialness of that date, but it was just looking like it made more and more sense to do the week before. And so I was already kind of coming to this point of, okay, I need to let go of the sentimentality of this other date because this one makes the most sense for us and for our families and our bridal party and all that kind of stuff. But I was a little sad to lose out on the specialness of that other date. But then it was really cool because probably after like a month of conversations of just figuring out when we wanted to get married, we were doing one of our morning runs. So Anna and I do the morning runs, and Tyler's been coming for the past couple months. And so the three of us were driving back from the run, and Anna was just asking questions and ended up randomly asking Tyler what finally made him want to ask me out, because he had been wanting to ask me out for a while before he did. And that led to a conversation of us telling the story of when he first asked me out, and we were doing the math on it and realized that we had gone out for the first time on a Wednesday, and we remembered that because it was the same day we also had youth group that night. And then I realized that he also asked me out on a Wednesday because it was the week before, and he asked me as we were leaving youth group. And so I realized that the day that he very first asked me out was exactly a week before we had gone on the first date, and it was actually the exact date that we were starting to look at that made more sense for having our wedding. So all that to say, we were initially wanting to get married on the 2-year anniversary of our first date, but now our actual wedding date is going to be the 2-year anniversary of when he first asked me out for the very first time. And I just thought that was so special because I think in a way it's even more special than the anniversary of our first date because it's the very beginning of our story. And that was just really special to me because as we had been going back and forth and trying to figure out a date, and now it doesn't seem like that huge of a deal, but at the time it felt kind of stressful because we were coordinating a bunch of different logistics. 3 of my bridesmaids are currently pregnant, so we were also trying to plan around that and making sure all of our close family and friends were going to be able to be there. And it felt like, oh, like which date is going to work best for us? And then I feel like in that timing, in that conversation with Anna and Tyler, God just made it really clear, like, this is your date. And I feel like God was reminding me through that, like, yes, I care about it being practical and logistical and working out, but I also see and care about the desires of your heart. And I also care about it being not just practical and logistical, but also special. And I'm somebody who is just a very sentimental person. And so I feel like God was just reminding me through that his hand is on this and that he is going to work out all the details and that I can trust him in that. And that's something I made intentional note of in going into wedding planning, just because I knew there were going to be tons of moments where things felt really stressful or I just didn't know how different details were going to work out. And coming back to that of how God, I feel like, just really made our date very clear, of knowing that there might be a stretch where you don't see how things are going to logistically work out, or things feel up in the air, or you have to sit in the uncertainty for a little bit, but that eventually God will work it out and that he is going to make a way and provide even in those small details for all of our needs. And you know, that doesn't mean everything's going to go perfectly. I know that there will be things that don't go according to plan, but I feel like that whole thing, I just keep reminding myself of it in the moments when I feel stressed and just remembering, you know what, this is going to work out. God is going to work it out, and try not to stress too much, but trust him to provide. So that's a long answer to a short question, but what did you expect? Next question is it going to be up on your YouTube channel? Please have your wedding on your YouTube channel. Yes, we did hire a videographer, actually one of my good friends, so we will have a video of the wedding, and yes, it will be going up on YouTube. I'm so excited. Next question, this one says colors, theme, any creative ideas that might be different from a traditional wedding. So as for colors, I'm doing like a light pale pink for the bridesmaids dresses. For florals, I definitely want to do a lot of greenery and white flowers mainly, with some really pale blush pink flowers kind of mixed in. But I love the look of just a lot of greenery and sort of like the droopy hangy greenery. I have a call with our florist in like an hour to talk through that a little bit more. And so that's kind of the colors theme. As for creative ideas, so we are actually doing something really special for the rehearsal dinner night that I'm super, super excited for. And I think I will do like a rehearsal dinner vlog to share that. So I'm gonna keep that a secret for now, but stay tuned because I am really excited for it. Maybe even almost as excited as I am for the wedding. I just think it'll be really special, and I'm also excited to share. Next question, what has been the hardest wedding decision you and your fiance have made and why? I think the hardest decision we've had to make and are still in the process of making actually is guest list. I think it's just so hard to try to narrow down the people in your life to a list that is sizable to be able to invite to your wedding. Tyler and I are both the type of people that want to be able to invite every single person we love, but obviously with the wedding that's just not possible, both with like the venue size and obviously budget and stuff. And so that's been a really hard one. And like I said, we're still kind of in the process of that. And even so, we're going to have a pretty big wedding, but even so, it's still just hard. And so I would say that one, but we are working our way through it. Next question is, what type of venue will your wedding be at? A church, a vineyard, garden, etc. So the one thing I'll share about our venue is that it has like rolling hills and oak trees. Tyler and I both knew we wanted to have something outdoors with greenery. And for me, me, my top choice was to have something like oak trees. I didn't really want to necessarily do like a super woodsy venue. Tyler, I think, didn't really care what kind of tree. He was just wanting greenery. But we both really like the oak trees, so that worked out. Next question is, how did modesty play a role when looking for a wedding dress? So I actually did an entire video talking about Christian modesty. I'll have that linked up here, I think, or here. I always get it mixed up. But I'll have that linked if you want to check out the whole video to kind of hear more generally my heart and a biblical perspective on modesty in general. But I would say as it pertains to a wedding dress, the biggest thing is that this is just something I strive for in my day-to-day anyways. And so I feel like that kind of just naturally reflected in my choices that I was making in terms of a wedding dress. I think that's just kind of how I see it, that if in my day-to-day life or in my day-to-day dress, that's something that I strive for, then why should it be any different for my wedding day, especially on a day when literally there's going to be so many eyes on us, and these are going to be pictures that we're going to share and all that kind of stuff. And so I didn't think about it a whole lot, only because it's just kind of a natural part of how I think anyways, so I don't have to like intentionally think about it, if that makes sense. But if you didn't see, I did post my wedding dress shopping vlog last week, so if you want to check that out, I'll have that linked in one of these two places. Next question, what things are you and Ty doing to prepare for marriage, not just the wedding? So I think the biggest, most like intentional thing that we're going to be doing is premarital counseling. So if you saw my Asking My Bridesmaids vlog, you saw that our friends Buzz and Tara, or Buzz is going to be marrying us, but we're going to be doing premarital counseling with both Buzz and Tara. And Tara is actually also a bridesmaid as well, but they've been married for 15 years and they're sort of like mentor couples for us. And so we're going to be going through like a workbook and a book with them for premarital counseling, because Buzz does that with all the couples that he marries. And so I'm excited to go through that. I did a post on Instagram a while back asking people just for things that they loved that they did through the wedding planning process, or things they would have done differently. And something so many people said was just how valuable the premarital counseling was. And I do feel like Tyler and I have already talked about probably a lot of the big topics that are going to come up in there, but I think to just have somebody walk us through those and intentionally go through that will be really good. But other than that, in terms of preparing for marriage, I think that the things that him and I are both going to be needing to do in our roles of husband and wife are also the things that are most important for us to be doing now. And that is pursuing a relationship with Jesus, having an active prayer life, consistently reading his word, being involved in and serving in our church community. And those are things that have been a part of both of our lives, again, before we met each other, and have been a part of our lives throughout dating and engagement. And I think that those are probably going to be some of the most important things in marriage as well. And I think those are always going to be the most important things in any new season of life, is to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. That as we pursue Jesus and as we make him first, he also leads us in the other roles that we lead in our lives, and in learning to love each other well. The next question is, have you both discussed topics like finances, and how did you have that conversation? The answer is yes, we have talked about all the things, and I honestly think that those topics sort of just came out naturally throughout the progression of our relationship, as you're able to sort of observe the spending or saving habits of the other person and ask questions and stuff. And so I would say we're really familiar with each other's financial statuses in terms of like what we make, in terms of savings and spending habits and all of that. Tyler's definitely better at saving than I am, but thankfully I think we've both been relatively smart with our finances. Neither of us have debt. I did have a good chunk of debt coming out of college, but thankfully was able to pay that off in living with my parents. And then the past couple years have just been able to save. And so thankfully we're both in a good place to be able to enter that. We both have similar values in terms of giving and tithing and goals for longer term things like buying a house and all of that kind of stuff. And so I feel like we're pretty much on the same page with a lot of that stuff. As far as like merging finances, we haven't done that yet, but we do plan to do that. And we haven't actually talked yet about who is going to handle what specifically. One thing I think Tyler will handle are more like investment type stuff, because that's something I've always wanted to learn more about and to do more, and I just honestly don't even know where to start with that. And I always hoped and prayed that my future husband would have knowledge in that area, because it kind of just overwhelms me. And so that's something that he already does. and I think will do for us. But in terms of like who's gonna handle paying the bills or just all that kind of stuff, I know that I kind of like to see that stuff and to like draw out budgets and just see where everything is going. But we'll see how we end up doing that. Next question, I like this one. It says, what are 3 things you look forward to in your marriage with your fiance? The first one, not gonna lie, I feel so cliche saying this because I feel like everybody says it, but it is honestly just true, and that is not having to say goodnight. I feel like it's just so hard as your relationship progresses. You just don't want to leave that person, and I feel like especially in this season of engagement, we end up staying up later because we don't want to say goodnight, but we can't say goodnight and stay together like we will be able to when we're married and live together. And so I think it'll just be so nice to not have to say goodnight, to just be able to go to sleep together. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. Another thing is just building a life together and all that that encompasses, being able to create and build a home together, parent together one day, all the things, like just being able to build our lives together and have things that we're working toward and goals that we're working toward together, and being a team and all those things, and traveling together. The third thing I would say is a little bit of a deeper thing, but I think just seeing how God is going to use our relationship and our marriage to continually make both of us look more like Him in that process of sanctification. If you've read the book, The Meaning of Marriage by Tim Keller, which I would highly recommend, it talks a lot about how culture presents, marriage, that the purpose of marriage is happiness, that you just have to find somebody that, is going to make you happy, and if they stop making you happy, then on to the next. But how biblically one of the most fundamental purposes of marriage is holiness, and that means that God is using that relationship to make both people involved look more like Him, and to sanctify them, and to surface those rugged edges, and to refine us to look more like Jesus. And how we have to remember that that is the focus of it, that that is the purpose. And when we pursue holiness as the purpose of that relationship, then happiness is going to inevitably follow as the byproduct. But if we are just focused on happiness and our own personal happiness and making ourselves happy through the other person, then we're going to find that empty, and that is not going to be lasting. And so I've already seen so much how God has used my relationship with Tyler to refine me and to also refine him, and to make both of us into more of who He has called us to be. And so I'm just excited to see how many more layers that's going to take on over the years of our marriage, and just how God uses that to draw us closer to Him and to make us look more like Him, and in that to draw us continually closer to each other. Next, where are you going on your honeymoon? We are going to Mexico. We really wanted to be able to go somewhere tropical and warm and relaxing. I won't say where in Mexico we're going, but we're going to a place that neither of us has been to before. I've actually never been to Mexico at all, and Tyler's only been to Tijuana, I believe, on missions trips, and so that will be very fun. The next question, this one's really sweet too. It says, what has brought you the most joy during this time? And I think honestly, just taking time to really savor the special moments, because I think in wedding planning it is really easy to just get caught up with the next thing, and to check one thing off and to not really take time to celebrate it, but to move on to the next thing because there are so many things to do. But just savoring those special moments that you always look forward to, like going wedding dress shopping and asking my bridesmaids, like really taking the time to make those things special. And I honestly think that, creating videos on those things and creating content on that really helps me to savor it, because it's sort of like taking a picture, right? Like you take a picture to remember a moment in time, to capture it, to be able to look back on it and to savor it. And so for me, having this YouTube channel and taking you guys along for the journey and being able to share this wedding planning process is sweet, and being able to share it with you. And then also for me, it really creates that time for me to pause and savor those moments. And I think for me, being able to sort of tie something up in a blog post where I've got the pictures all, displayed and written out or whatever, or in a YouTube video, is almost like a scrapbook for me of a way that I can savor it, if that makes sense. And so that's been really sweet, just making the most of those special moments. There's been a lot of joy in that. And then also another thing that actually kind of happened today, I just did a post on my Instagram about it, is God answering a really cool prayer for brand collaborations that I can work with creatively through this wedding planning process. So probably like a month into being engaged, I had a brand reach out with a collaboration opportunity that hasn't happened yet, so I can't talk about it, but it's a huge blessing for us as we're planning our wedding. And so after that happened, I feel like my wheels just started turning with excitement and like, oh, what other potential opportunities could there be to creatively collaborate with brands throughout this process and meet some of the needs we have along the way as we're planning our wedding. And I was like, man, I hope more come up. And then I realized I don't have to just hope for that, I can pray for that. And sometimes it feels silly to pray for those little things because they're not like needs and they feel almost like not significant enough. But I was just reminded that God cares about the desires of our hearts, and He likes to show us that He cares for us in personal ways. And that doesn't mean that we always get the things that we ask for, but we can bring them before Him knowing we have a Father who hears. And so I just started praying, God, bring about different brand collaboration opportunities throughout this wedding planning process that allow me to work in things I'm already having to plan, but getting to work with brands in doing it. And in the last week, I've had 3 come up that are really exciting, that again are just going to be a blessing to us financially. And they're also just fun, being able to, again, sort of strategically and creatively put these puzzle pieces together to bring content to you that's hopefully going to be valuable to you and also be a blessing to us. And so that's been something that's also brought me a lot of joy, because it's again that puzzle working piece of me that likes to just fit all the pieces together strategically and in a creative way. And so that is that question. Final question is, where will you guys be living? And the answer is we don't know yet. We know that we will be staying in this area, but we're not sure if we're going to get this apartment, if Anna's gonna stay here or not. I will say that in the excitement of wedding planning and getting ready to be married, probably the only bittersweet part of all of it is knowing that Anna and I are not gonna be roomies anymore, because she's just been such an amazing roommate and so thankful for her friendship. And so it's really sad to think about that chapter ending, but we're not sure yet in terms of if Anna or us is gonna keep the apartment or if either of us will. But we will stay somewhere in the area, and we know that we're probably going to rent for now, instead of looking to like buy a house or something like that. But TBD on that. Editing Kaci here. Not gonna lie, I always thought it would be so fun to say that, and now I have a reason to. But I was editing this video and I thought, you know what? I think it's time to just share our wedding date. And I was going to insert this clip in the part of the video where that question was asked, but then I thought, you know what? Why not leave a little treat for those of you who made it to this point through to the end of the video? So with that being said, our wedding date is, drum roll, November 13th. And as you're watching this, so as this is being uploaded, we have officially dropped below the 100-day count. So we are 99 days away from getting married, and I just thought that was really exciting and wanted to share. And in addition to November 13th being special for the reasons I already described earlier in this video, that it was 2 years to the day from when he first asked me out, it's also kind of cool because both of our birthdays are October 13th, and so we'll have our birthdays on October 13th and then our anniversary exactly 1 month later. So if you made it this far in the video and got the secret info, comment down below letting me know. So those are all the questions I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed chatting with me on all things wedding planning. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.